The 2015 finals were the first of 4 finals matchups between the Golden State Warriors and Cleveland Cavaliers. The Warriors would win in 6 games to a shorthanded Cavs team whose second best player for the series behind LeBron was Timothy Mozgov. Next season, the same Warriors team would lose to a healthy Cavaliers after blowing a 3-1 lead. Then in the offseason, they signed Kevin Durant and won the next 2 championships with a little help from the Hen God. Because of the events that happened after the 2015 finals, I feel like 2015 gets overlooked when talking about the Warriors-Cavs rivalry. The 3-1 comeback that had 2 incredibly iconic moments, and 2018, which also had an incredibly iconic moment of excellent basketball IQ. But to me, the 2015 finals was an incredibly interesting series. Watching LeBron carry is always fun. Seeing him single-handedly make the series 6 games was very interesting to see. Timothy Mozgov and Matthew Dellavedova playing like they're actually good. Watching a new style of basketball with the right personnel dominate a team with the top 3 player of all time, depending on who you ask. But the most interesting thing about that series to me was who walked away with the finals MVP. 2015 was the first year of Golden State's reign of dominance, and that was because it was Stephen Curry's first year of dominance. He averaged 23.8 points, 7.7 assists, and 2 steals, shooting 49% from the field and 44% from 3. And he was only 1% off in field goal percentage from a 40-50-90 season. He would win his first MVP, then bump up his averages to 28.3 points, 6.4 assists, and 1.9 steals on 45% field goal percentage and 42% from 3 on 11 attempts per game in the playoffs. He averaged 34-7 in the first round sweep versus the Pelicans, 24-6 versus the Grizzlies, who they beat in 6 games, and 31-5.6 assists in the conference finals versus the Rockets, who they beat in 5 games. But when it came time to face the Cavaliers in the finals, Curry dropped completely off and was locked down by Matthew Dellavedova. Except he really wasn't. In the 2015 NBA Finals, Curry led the Warriors in scoring, averaging 26 points, and he shot 44% from the field and 38.5% from 3, along with 5 rebounds and 6.3 assists. His efficiency dipped a little, and his production was less than that of previous series. In the first 3 rounds, he averaged 29 points a game, so it was a 3-point drop-off. But here's the thing, pretty much everyone struggled in that series. Everyone besides for Andre Iguodala and Timothy Mozgov shot worse from the field in this series than they did in the regular season, despite how crazy Golden State's offense was, and the fact that LeBron James is LeBron James. This series was a tough, defensive, grindy series. Lots of poor performances, especially Klay Thompson. I do find it quite rich how people talk about Curry's final performance, but then ignore Klay Thompson's. Curry increased his scoring average and his field goal percentage dropped a little bit. Klay, on the other hand, averaged 15.8 points, shooting 40% from the field and 30% from 3. And while Klay would normally make up for this with locking down on defense, his matchup was J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert, not exactly the hardest guys to guard. I'm actually surprised by the total lack of mention of his performance in this series. I know that the legacy of Klay Thompson isn't exactly a talked about subject, but damn, if it was, this series would be brought up a lot in Twitter posts about Klay Thompson. Anyways, the Warriors as a team shot 43% and the Cavaliers shot 38%. It was not a pretty series offensively, so understandably, Curry shot a little worse from the field and from 3 than he had in the regular season and in the other 3 rounds of the playoffs. When you put the stats side by side, the drop-off isn't even that dramatic. The reason people have the perception that he played really bad is one game, and in particular, one Hobbit. In Game 2, Stephen Curry put up 19 points. He shot 5 for 27 overall and 2 for 15 from 3, with 6 turnovers. This was mostly due to Matthew Dellavedova, who played so hard on defense that he literally had to go to the hospital after due to how physically exerted he was. His defense was so effective that he had a plus 15 plus minus despite shooting 30% and having 6 turnovers. Dellavedova no doubt played some fantastic defense on Curry and locked him down for this game. But here's the thing. thing. He only did it for this game. People seem to think that Curry was Delly's bitch for the entire series when he very clearly wasn't. Actually, when you think about it, and this is kind of crazy, Delly made a lot of money from this one game. His offensive stats were absolute garbage for the series, and going into the finals, he was a complete unknown to anyone outside of Cleveland. But him putting up all that effort in one game led to him getting a $38 million contract from the Bucks, and then regressing back to obscurity. Anyways, let's look at everything else that Curry did. In Game 1, Curry put up 26 points and 8 assists, shooting 50% from the field. Game 3, he put up 27 points and 6 assists, shooting 50% from the field, and hit 7 of 13 3-pointers, which is 54%. Game 4, he put up 22 and 7, 47% from the field and 57% from 3. In Game 5, Curry had his best performance, putting up 37 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 56% from the field and 54% from 3. And in Game 6, he didn't shoot that well, but he did put up 25 and 8. Here are his final stats when he removed Game 2, actually more efficient than the regular season with 3.6 more points per game. So essentially, one game is responsible for Curry's stats dipping and him losing Finals MVP. Okay, so far we've talked about Curry's performance and why it was worthy of Finals MVP. But before we can come to the conclusion that he deserves the MVP, we must first look at the performance of the man who won the award. Alright, before I talk down Andre Iguodala's performance, I would first like to say that in no way do I want to come off as disrespecting Iggy or his contributions in any way. Andre is one of my favorite players in the NBA, which is something I say a lot because, well, a lot of players are one of my favorite players in the NBA, but he truly is up there on that list. I've always been a big fan of his athleticism, defense, and unselfishness. Unselfishness that is rare to find in a player with his talent, willing to come off of the bench as he entered his 30s after being an all-star just 3 seasons ago. It's commendable, so I'm commending it. So with all of that said, Andre Iguodala's performance in the 2015 finals is overrated. The case of Curry's performance versus Iggy's is a case of expected versus unexpected. Curry was expected to put up 20 plus points per game on good shooting splits, and he did. Iggy was not expected to average 16.3 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 52% from the field, and as a below average shooter for the entirety of his career, averaging 5.8 threes a game, shooting 40%. Those are big bumps in his stats. That's not to mention his defensive impact, which I felt was a little overrated, which we'll get into, but nonetheless, Iggy no doubt stepped up in the finals when it counted the most. His scoring average more than doubled, his rebounds doubled, his 3-point percentage increased by 5% while doubling the attempts. This was unexpected. When people saw Curry hitting 7 threes and cooking the man who previously locked him up at the end of Game 6, everyone looked at that and said, yep, that's Stephen Curry, that's what he does. When Iggy stepped up his game significantly and was throwing down crazy dunks, people went, oh, this is new. He stepped up while Curry was just himself as normal without being a heightened version of himself. So it became seen as Iggy stepping up to the plate while Curry didn't. But here's the thing. Curry's average is better than Iggy's best. Putting the stats side by side and adding that Iggy reduced LeBron's field goal percentage by a bit when you consider everything, Curry still clearly outperformed Andre. But to clarify, let's look at Iggy's defensive impact. Iggy's defensive percentages against LeBron are no doubt impressive, but I think it's important to look at the context of those stats. While LeBron did shoot poorly against Andre, it is important to note a few things. One, LeBron had role players on his team to help him, and that was it. When you're the only player that the defense has to focus on, it's very hard to shoot a good percentage. When the only other scoring options are Timothy Mozgov and J.R. Smith, it makes it hard to shoot a good percentage, and as a result, he had to take a lot of bad shots, and LeBron just simply chose to take bad shots. There were many times that LeBron just walked up the court and immediately got a post-up far from the basket on Iggy and took a long fadeaway. This happened over and over. He didn't actually make that much effort to get good shots. I think Iggy played great defense, but there's really no such thing as shutting down LeBron. The 40% field goal percentage had more to do with the circumstances and his shot selection than it had to do with Andre's defense. Say Kyrie Irving is there and LeBron's a little more passive. LeBron shoots more in the realm of the mid 40s to early 50s. So Stephen Curry was phenomenal in all but one game of the finals, putting up 27 points a game on great efficiency, and he did quite a bit of carrying on offense because outside of Iggy, Klay Thompson averaged less than 16 points and shot terribly. Next best was Draymond Green, averaging 13 points on 38% from the field and 26% from 3. And Curry's offensive contributions outweighed the contributions of Iggy, who stepped up but was still outperformed by Curry. Curry deserved the 2015 Finals MVP, but unfortunately, people were too in the moment, focused on the fact that Andre Iguodala stepped up, and now because of that, Curry's legacy could be that he's the guy that won multiple championships but never won Finals MVP, because I don't see him winning one with Kevin Durant on the team anytime soon. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more.